and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. The top stories. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike, and some top officials of the FCTA face off with military officials over alleged land grabbing. President Bola Tinubu challenges media to wield power with wisdom, fairness, and patriotism. Tension flared at the Senate over ongoing INEC delineation in Warri, Delta State. And 12 people killed in a suicide attack in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. That's News Round in View. News Round begins with a face-off between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Wike, and some top officials of the FCTA with some military men on Tuesday over alleged land grabbing within the Gaduwa district of the nation's capital. The FCT minister explained that the officers are acting based on impunity because there is no legal document in the FCTA's record allocating the land to them.
Since his assumption in office, one of the core mandates of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Wike, is to redefine the landscape of the FCT by eliminating non-compliance of the FCT Land Use Act by residents. To achieve this, the minister introduced land reform policies as well as set up committees to guide land development in the FCT. The committees were charged, among other things, to review land allocation documents and undeveloped lands in the metropolis. As part of the committee's discovery, this land, which allegedly belongs to a retired military chief, is being developed illegally, as the FCT administration says there is no record of allocation. The FCT minister arrives the land to have a discussion on the issue and meets a face-off between the military personnel on ground and FCTA officials.
Show me the document you have. You have no document. Bring the document.
Have documents.
The altercation deepens when the minister tried to prevent the military officers from coming close to civilians with their rifles.
This is not professional. This is not professional. You can't be pressing the minister with this. It's okay.
You can never develop this property. I will not allow it.
When the tension eased, Mr. Wike explained the reason for the altercation.
It's really unfortunate. And you heard what the officer said was sent by the former chief of naval staff. And I don't understand how somebody who attained that position and you see that he has a problem cannot approach my office to say, look, this is what is going on, this is what is going on. But simply because he's a military man, he could use that to intimidate Nigerians. I'm not one of those kind of persons that will succumb to blackmail or intimidation. I was there. I said, bring the documents. You don't have the documents. Bring the approval for building. You don't have it. And how can we continue to allow lawlessness to prevail in this country? What about those who don't have the military? What about those who don't have security? It has gotten to a level where when government officials are carrying out their job, you go and bring security to intimidate them against government officials. I will not accept that. I've spoken to the Chief of Defense Staff and I've spoken to the Chief of Naval Staff, and they have assured me that, please, they have to resolve the matter. And we're not coming here to have a shooter with anybody to cause chaos or not. But what I can say, I would not allow it to happen.
The minister has vowed to eliminate impunity and other barriers standing as hindrance to the good works of his administration. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluwade, Channels Television News.
And 24 hours after the dust raised by the altercation between the minister and the military men, the Minister of the Federal Capital, Mr. Nyesom Wike, reaffirmed his commitment to the rule of law and due process in addressing land disputes in the nation's capital. Speaking during the FCT Executive Council meeting in Abuja, the minister reiterates his respect for all government institutions, including the military, while ensuring that officials discharging their duties are protected.
Members of the Federal Capital Territory Executive Council are meeting to review ongoing projects and policy implementation across the nation's capital. The meeting, chaired by the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, had in attendance secretaries, directors, and heads of agencies under the FCT administration. The minister used the opportunity to clarify the recent face-off with some military personnel over a land dispute.
First of all, you apply. I want this as part.
He emphasized that all parties must follow due process and respect approved land allocations.
I was the one who's the well off. I was off to issue. Do you have documents? You don't have. Do you have any approval? You don't have. So what's the problem? We should allow lawlessness to continue. Okay. If this is what we want, but not what I'm sitting here, where I go. Not that. My conscience will not allow me. If I'm enforcing rules, order to other people, then I begin to say, this man does not go there because he was for my this, he was for that. Nobody does that. Everything you do, what does the law say about this? Let's follow the law.
He also reaffirmed his respect for all government institutions, including the military, explaining that his intervention in the incident was to restore order.
I have respect for the military. I will continue to respect them. I know what the institution stands for. So anybody trying to bring collision there to say, oh, there's no problem with the military. It's not correct. I don't have a problem with the military. I don't have a problem with the military. And I will not have a problem. But why would I have a problem with the government? I don't know government of, I don't know decision or government decision. Yeah. Why should I have a problem with it? I don't have. And I will not have.
The FCT administration urges Nigerians to respect the rule of law and obey government instructions. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
And earlier in the week, the federal government had announced its decision to begin the production of locally made military hardware in a bid to strengthen the nation's security architecture. Speaking at the headquarters of the Ministry of Defense during the signing of a memorandum of understanding to formally kickstart the production, the Minister of Steel Development, Mr. Audu Shaibu, explained that the move is part of the federal government's efforts to tackle insecurity in Nigeria.
This meeting between the Ministry of Steel Development and the Ministry of Defense in Abuja is to examine the security architecture in Nigeria and prefer ways to strengthen it. The ministries forge a partnership to commence the local production of military hardwares with the belief that it will greatly improve the security situation in the country.
This partnership marks a bold and visionary step in our collective pursuit of self-reliance in defense productions and national industrial revival. It reflects the renewed determination of the federal government to transform Nigerians from consumers of defense hardware into fraud and producers, leveraging our vast natural resources and indigenous capacity.
Steel is extracted from iron ore, which is a natural resource believed to be over 3 billion metric tons deposit in states such as Kogi, Enugu, Niger, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, according to the Raw Materials Research and Development Council. Data from the agency states that Nigeria imports about $4 billion worth of steel products annually, a situation the government aims to change with the signing of the MOU.
Today we are signing a memorandum of understanding to use the engineering workshops at the Ajokuta Steel Complex to produce military hardware. Military hardware such as helmets, vests, bullets, and rifles. This is a very, very key component of Mr. President's renewed hope agenda to improve the security architecture of Nigeria. And what we're doing here today would help us to improve the overall security architecture of this country.
The local production of military hardwares is part of the plan to create a robust domestic steel industry that supports national industrialization and enhances the country's self-reliance in defense production. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluwade, Channels Television News.
On Thursday, President Bola Tinubu charged news editors and journalists to discharge their responsibilities with wisdom, fairness, and a strong sense of national duty. He gave the charge when he declared open the 21st Conference of the Nigerian Guild of Editors held at the State House, Abuja, in what was a first appearance made by a sitting president at the Conference of Nigerian Editors.
It's the 21st edition of the annual Editors Conference, organized by the Nigerian Guild of Editors. This is the first time a sitting president will be attending the conference. And this year, the focus is on the role of editors in democratic governance and national cohesion. The conference also attracts some state governors, members of the Federal Executive Council, aides of the president, heads of federal agencies, leaders of media organizations, including top managers from Channels Television, past and present leadership of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, and traditional rulers, amongst others, who have converged to exchange ideas and examine issues of governance as well as national development. The Guild uses the opportunity to state their requests to the President.
Corporate tax relief. That's for between 5 to 10 years, which will enable media houses to stabilize, meet operating costs, and sustain their watchdog role. Number 2, sir, VAT exemption. In recognition of its social responsibility role, the media should be exempted from VAT on essential tools and equipment.
The keynote speaker of the conference is Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State. He examines the strategic role of editors in promoting electoral integrity.
When government credibility collapses, media coverage of the government becomes suspect. When the media frames every electoral challenge as evidence of systemic fraud, rather than contextualizing it within an imperfect but improving process, it reinforces the very distrust that fragments society. When you, editors and gatekeepers, choose narratives that amplify division because division drives sales, you feed the polarization and make your own work even harder. Post-2023, trust fractured because the narratives around the election became tribal, fragmented, and in some cases, inflammatory.
His views are re-echoed by the Minister of Information and National Orientation.
As we deliberate here today, I charge you, my colleagues, to see yourselves as essential partners in national renewal. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has demonstrated its faith in you through his actions, not just his words. We invite you, therefore, to engage, to critique constructively, and to report with utmost responsibility.
On his part, President Bola Tinubu urged the editors to discharge their responsibilities with national interest above personal interests.
As editors and managers of the national information space, you shape narratives, you influence public understanding, you decide what becomes national focus and how our collective challenges are interpreted. The weight of that responsibility is extremely significant. It must be exercised with wisdom, fairness, and a strong sense of national duty.
He reaffirms his commitments to the development of Nigeria.
Yes, we are challenged by terrorism, banditry, and others. We recognize that. Are we doing something about it? Are we inspiring the armed forces? Are we encouraging them to fight? They put their lives on the line to defend the national sovereignty of this country. It is our responsibility.
The highlight of the event is the presentation of plaques to the Minister of Information, Governor Hope Uzodinma, and President Bola Tinubu in recognition of their support to the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Daily Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
And when Newsround returns, the Ooni of Ife, Obadeyeye Ogunwusi, calls on lawmakers to ensure accelerated passage of the proposed bill on special seats for women. Stay with us for details just ahead. Welcome back. On Friday, the proposed bill on special seats for women at the National Assembly received royal support from the Ooni of Ife, Obadeyeye Ogunwusi Ojaja II, who solicited the support of the National Assembly to expedite action on the legislation currently before it. Lending his voice to the bill, the first-class Yoruba monarch said the bill should include 2 reserved seats for women in each geopolitical zone, as this will help tackle the underrepresentation of women in Nigeria's political landscape. Obadeyeye made the call while meeting with other traditional rulers from the southwest region of the country.
The advocacy for the passage of the special seats bill for women both in the national and state houses of assemblies is getting exceptional boost at this meeting organized by the Ooni of Ife for other traditional rulers from the southwest region. Mapping out strategies to ensure the bill, which is currently on the second reading at the National Assembly, is passed, is the central focus of this meeting.
This initiative, I can assure you, is yielding a very positive result. Right now, as I speak, for the Senate upper chamber, 6 for each geopolitical zone has been proposed. We're here to further appeal to the majority of the House that please, at least, consider 2 for them per each geopolitical zone. Please, we are begging on their behalf, we traditional rulers.
The proposed bill seeks to provide 82 reserved seats for women in the National Assembly, 55 seats in the House of Representatives, while 27 in the Senate for women and persons with disabilities. According to statistics, at the 10th National Assembly, women only occupy 4.2% out of the 469 seats combined in the 2 chambers, while at the state level, there are only about 55 women out of the 990 seats in the state houses of assembly. This, however, does not align well with other invited guests as they add their views on the subject matter.
If you have 14 houses of assembly without any woman, what are they deciding about women in the country? This is a huge problem. That's why we are craving. We are saying, unless women are on the table, their issues will not come on board.
The special seat bill, therefore, represents a temporary but targeted affirmative action mechanism consistent with the principle of substantive equality.
The clamor for the passage of special seats has further intensified with this meeting. It's believed that the creation of special seats, both at the federal and state level, will address the long-standing structural imbalance in Nigeria's political representation. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
And during the week, the Senate also expressed its resolve to investigate the ongoing delineation exercise by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Warri Federal Constituency of Delta State, amid concerns of alleged marginalization and irregularities raised in a petition before the upper chamber. The resolution followed a motion sponsored by Senator Simon Lalong from Plateau South titled Urgent Need for Intervention to Prevent Imminent Political Crisis over INEC Delineation Exercise in Warri Federal Constituency, Delta State.
It's a loaded agenda for the Red Chamber on the second legislative day of the week as the Deputy Senate President again chairs.
Your Excellency,
minutes into the plenary session, the Senate leader makes a clarification on the alleged plot to impeach the Senate President.
We are not taking this misinformation for granted. It's not only that we are all united behind the leadership of His Excellency Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio as President of the Senate, we are also developing a zero level of tolerance to distraction.
Another lawmaker raised a different kind of concern in a motion on the political crisis that has trailed the delineation exercise in Warri Federal Constituency by INEC.
In the alleged delineation exercise, two communities, Baramatu and Oporoza, which that you had 1 ward each, have been increased to 8 wards out of 19 created in Warri Southwest. However, the Insecurity community, which had 6 wards previously, had been reduced to 5 wards.
A group of people have taken INEC to court in respect of the outcome of the delineation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think that this matter should be rested and allow due process to continue in the courts.
However, the matter escalated when Senator Lalong, in his argument, dropped a comment referring to the villa.
The reference, even from the villa, is not a hidden document.
Is somebody that is guiding this motion from what he has said?
No, he's an interested party.
No, don't talk.
Senator Jewel, allow the Senate to...
At this point, the Senate leader intervenes.
We also should not lose sight of the point made by distinguished Senator Joel Onowakbo that this matter is before the court.
The Senate also passed Informal Sector Employment Regulation Bill 2025 aimed at protecting and formalizing the employment of domestic workers, apprentices, interns and other informal sector employees across Nigeria.
Ticket and pass.
The bill prescribes 2 months imprisonment or a fine of 500,000 naira or both to an employer who deliberately employs persons below the age of 18 years.
Meanwhile, the Senate has passed through second reading the National Primary Healthcare Development Bill 2025 to provide for a comprehensive framework for the delivery of quality and accessible primary healthcare services to strengthen community-based health systems and promote universal primary healthcare coverage. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
On Friday, the Senate moved to outlaw the recruitment of persons under the age of 18 into the military as it passed the Armed Forces Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2025 for second reading. The provision, which prohibits the enlistment of minors, aligns Nigeria's military practices with the Child's Rights Act 2003, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child.
Senators reconvened for the last plenary session of the week with the subject of overhauling and reforming the Armed Forces Bill in focus. Leading the debate, Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua argued that the bill clarifies the chain of command in the military. He also speaks about the recruitment process.
Enlistment of persons below 18 years, aligning Nigeria with the Child Rights Act and international humanitarian standards.
The reform also ensures that legally qualified military officers will be permitted to represent the armed forces in civil courts. A standing fund for litigation will also be established to ensure the timely and efficient handling of military-related legal matters.
This bill also seeks to subject military authorities to the authority of democratically elected institutions, so that they cannot be masters of themselves.
I want, in amending this law, I want them to bring at any time the commander-in-chief wants to appoint
a chief of army staff, chief of naval staff, you should go by their courses.
A bill for an act to repeal the Armed Forces Act and to reenact a modern, constitutionally compliant and operationally responsive legal framework for the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Second reading taken.
Separately, the Senate debated a bill to establish the Chartered Institute of Revenue and Fiscal Management, a proposed legislation which is a major step towards addressing the nation's chronic dependence on debt to finance its annual budgets. The lawmakers expressed polarized views.
This is like duplicating an act that is already in operation, not bringing a new bill and setting up a new professional body that will be doing exactly the same thing as the Chartered Institute of Taxation is doing.
The bill subsequently skills second reading.
Second reading taken.
Distinguished colleagues. Outside the chamber, the Senate Committee on Public Accounts, in a media conference, announced the commencement of an investigation into the generation and utilization of stamp duty revenue across the country.
This committee has written all commercial banks to furnish this committee with information, and information that will be accompanied with figures as to how much that particular bank or collectively all the commercial banks have been able to generate from 2016 to 2024.
The Senate has passed for second reading a bill to amend the Sheriff and Civil Process Act 2004. The bill seeks to modernize civil justice by introducing electronic service and enforcement of court processes, intrinsically aiming to improve judgment enforcement, especially against government agencies. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
A news round ends with reports on the death of 12 people in a suicide attack in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, where 27 people were also injured. The country's Minister for Interior, Mohsin Naqvi, explained that the bomber was planning to attack the district courthouse but was unable to gain access. And that's it on the program. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.